managerial bloodbath this season, hasn't it? With 44 departures across the 4 divisions. We've still got a little way to go before we hit the record of 56. That was reached last season. And do these managerial hirings and firings work, I hear you ask? Well, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Here then are 8 managers who took on roles mid-season that proved to be big mistakes. Known as Santa Clueless, Reid took over the Addicts in November 2006 and was out of the door before Father Christmas had even strapped up his reindeer. Under Reid's leadership, Charlton disappeared down the chimney, out of the League Cup, courtesy of Wickham. After 41 days, Reid was a sitting duck, or turkey, and replaced by Alan Pardew. But he hasn't done too badly since, and is now Executive Director at Southampton. As a player, Felix Magath won the Bundesliga 3 times, and the European Cup once. As a manager, he excelled at German giants such as Bayern Munich, Stuttgart and Schalke. But at Fulham, he proved loopier than a pretzel, rubbing cheese on the thigh of Breda Hangeland in an attempt to cure a muscle injury. Surely it should have been Craven Cottage cheese. He went to Fulham on Valentine's Day in 2014, and opposition teams loved playing against him, firstly relegating his side and then sending them to 4 consecutive defeats at the start of the Championship season. West Brom isn't known for its continental style, and Pepe Mel was a rare dabble into a different approach, one that turned out to be short-lived and nearly devastating. And that saw the club plummet with a record of 3 wins from 17 in 2014. He's now managing Deportivo La Coruña, but would be apparently very willing to come back to England. The newest addition to the list, and one especially for tortured Coventry fans. Slade was appointed at the end of 2016, having only been freshly sacked by Charlton weeks before. And he certainly took the Sky Blues into a valley, but not a happy one. His record made him the club's 2nd worst manager in history, taking the team from a handful of points from safety to 13 points from safety. Curiously, he was sacked by both clubs this season after 16 games. Not so sweet for him, eh? Clubs love continuity, and keeping Connor on after Mick McCarthy was sacked seemed to be a smart move. After all, he'd got a long association with the club. With 13 games to go, maybe he could save Wolves from Premier League doom. Nope, not a single win, and 4 points from 39. He was moved to assistant for the new season, and then sacked 4 games in. That's one Connor whose ambitions certainly were terminated. We all love Tim Sherwood, don't we? Swindon fans certainly do, especially when he goes down in his role as Director of Football to the touchline to have a chat with players and inspire them to defeat at Eastleigh. And I'll bet Remy Gard really loved him. After all, Remy was handed the poison chalice at Villa by Sherwood in 2015, and boy didn't he drink from it, with a mighty 2 wins in 20 and a sacking after 147 days. If there was a joint award, I'd give it out right here. When the Geordie legend took over on April Fool's Day 2009, with the Magpies trapped in the relegation zone, hopes were high that he could inspire players such as Obafemi Martins and Michael Owen to pull themselves out. Alas, he couldn't, and in actual fact they seemed to get worse. 5 points from 24, and a mighty 4 goals, 3 of them in 1 game. That strangled the Toon Army and condemned them to the Championship. Hands up if you think Shearer should never have taken this role. Dean Saunders was a very good player, and started off as a pretty good manager at Wrexham, and then got relegated at Doncaster, and then the wheels came off at Wolves. He went there in January 2013, and took them down into the 3rd tier for the first time since the mid-80s, gone after 4 months, and then on to Crawley, who he also relegated, and finally on to Chesterfield, who he was setting well on their way to relegation before he was sacked after 6 months, with a 2-month summer gap in the middle.